The sun had just started to rise over the city when David stepped out of his small rented room and locked the door behind him. He lived in an old building where the paint on the walls had faded and the stairs made soft sounds with every step. David adjusted his shirt carefully and looked at his reflection in a dark window. He wanted to look confident today because this day mattered more than most days in his life. David was a hard-working man who had faced many delays in life but never stopped trying. He worked long hours at different places and saved every small amount he could. He dreamed of having a stable job where he could breathe without fear of losing work the next morning. The interview he was going to attend felt like a door that could finally open. He walked quickly toward the bus stop with a thin folder in his hand. Inside the folder were copies of his papers and notes he had read many times during late nights. His shoes were not new, but they were clean. His steps were steady, but his heart was beating fast. He kept reminding himself to stay calm and believe in his effort. The street was quiet, with only a few people passing by. Shops were still closed and the air felt fresh. As David walked, he checked the time again. He had planned everything carefully so nothing would go wrong. He needed to reach the office early and prepare his thoughts before speaking to the interview team. As he crossed a long road, something caught his attention. A small car was stopped on the side with its hazard lights blinking. The hood was open and a young woman stood beside it. She looked confused and kept looking around as if hoping someone would stop. David slowed his steps without realizing it. He looked at his watch again and felt a small pressure in his chest. The bus stop was not far and stopping now could change everything. He tried to look away and continue walking. But then he heard the sound of the woman sighing deeply. She bent down near the tire and touched it before standing back up. David remembered moments from his own life when he stood alone with problems and no one noticed. He remembered how small help from a stranger once made a big difference. His feet stopped moving forward and his mind made the choice before fear could stop it. He turned around and walked toward the car. He spoke gently and asked if she needed help. The woman looked up with surprise and relief on her face. She said her name was Mia and that the tire was flat. She explained she had never handled a situation like this before. David placed his folder safely on the sidewalk and examined the tire. It was completely flat and could not be driven safely. He opened the trunk and found a spare tire and tools. His movements were calm and practiced because he had fixed many things in his life using patience and care. Mia watched closely and kept thanking him. David smiled lightly and told her not to worry. As he worked he could feel time slipping away, but he did not rush. He believed that doing something right mattered more than doing it fast. Cars passed by but none stopped. The street remained quiet except for the sound of tools and distant traffic. Mia asked David where he was going and he told her about the interview. She looked concerned and apologized for the trouble. David told her that life sometimes brings unexpected moments. After some time the spare tire was properly placed. David stood up and wiped his hands on a cloth. He told Mia she could drive safely now but should replace the tire soon. Mia offered him money but he refused politely. He picked up his folder and wished her well. David walked quickly toward the bus stop with hope and worry mixed inside him. He arrived just in time to see the bus leaving the corner. His shoulders dropped slightly as reality settled in. He knew reaching the interview on time was no longer possible. He stood there quietly for a moment and took a deep breath. He felt disappointment but not regret. He believed he had done the right thing even if it cost him something important. As David walked back home later that day, the city felt different. He wondered what the future would hold and whether this missed chance was truly the end. He did not know that the small choice he made that morning had already started changing his life. The next morning arrived quietly and David woke up with a heavy feeling in his chest. He sat on the edge of his bed and stared at the wall for a long moment. The memory of the missed interview returned to his mind again and again. He knew the chance might not come back. David prepared himself for the day and left his room as usual. He went to his temporary work and focused on his tasks. He kept his head down and worked with steady hands. People around him spoke and laughed, but his thoughts stayed distant. During a short break he sat alone and drank water. He wondered if helping the woman had been a mistake. He quickly pushed that thought away. He reminded himself that doing the right thing mattered even when the outcome hurt. Across the city, Mia sat in the back seat of a long black car. The car moved smoothly through wide roads and tall buildings. She looked out the window, but her mind was not focused on the view. Her thoughts kept returning to the man who helped her. Mia lived a life surrounded by comfort, but something about that morning stayed with her. She remembered how calm David was and how he refused money. She remembered the folder in his hand and the way he kept checking the time. When the car stopped at a large office building, Mia stepped out and walked inside. The building belonged to her father, whose name was Robert. Robert was a respected businessman, known for building companies with strong values. Mia met her father in his office and told him everything. She explained how David had missed his interview just to help her. She spoke about his honesty and patience. Robert listened quietly and did not interrupt. Robert leaned back in his chair and thought deeply. He believed success was not only about skills but about character. He asked Mia for the name of the company where David had applied. Mia told him immediately. Robert made a call to the office manager and asked for details. He learned that David had indeed missed the interview and was marked absent. Robert explained the situation clearly and requested another chance for him. Back at his work, David finished his shift and returned home tired. He cooked a simple meal and ate slowly. He tried to focus on small joys like warm food and rest. He did not expect anything to change. Later that evening, David received a phone call from an unknown number. He hesitated before answering. A polite voice asked him to confirm his name. The caller said she was calling from the company where he applied. David felt his heart beat faster as he listened. The caller explained that the company had received important information about his absence. She told him he was invited for another interview the next day. David thanked her again and again. After the call ended, he sat quietly in his chair. His hands trembled slightly as he realized hope had returned. He whispered a small thank you to himself and prepared his papers again. The next day, David reached the office building early. He stood outside for a moment and took a deep breath. He reminded himself to stay honest and calm. Inside the building, he was guided to a waiting room. The walls were clean and bright. People moved with purpose around him. He felt nervous but steady. When his name was called, he walked into the interview room. To his surprise, Mia was sitting there with an older man. The man introduced himself as Robert and smiled warmly. Mia looked at David with recognition and relief. David understood immediately why he was given another chance. He felt grateful but stayed composed. Robert asked David questions about his life and work. David answered honestly without trying to impress. He spoke about challenges and lessons he learned. Robert listened carefully and nodded. He explained that integrity mattered deeply to him. He told David that choices reveal more than words. The interview ended with a firm handshake. David left the room feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He did not know the final decision yet, but he felt proud of himself. As David stepped outside the building, the city air felt different. He looked up at the sky and allowed himself a small smile. He knew that helping someone had opened a door he never expected. David waited for the response with patience and quiet strength. Days passed slowly as he returned to his normal routine. He woke up early and completed his work with focus. His mind stayed calm even though his heart carried hope. He reminded himself that no matter the result, he had acted with honesty. That thought gave him peace during long hours of waiting. He did not speak much about the interview to anyone. He preferred to keep the moment personal. One afternoon, David received another call from the company. He answered with steady hands and clear voice. The caller asked him to come to the office the next morning. David thanked her and ended the call with a soft smile. That night, David prepared carefully. He cleaned his shoes and ironed his shirt. He organized his papers and read through them once more. He slept early with a calm heart. The next morning the city felt alive as David walked toward the office building. He felt different from before. His steps were confident and his thoughts were clear. He believed that whatever happened he would face it with dignity. Inside the office David was guided to a quiet room. The walls were covered with simple art and the room felt welcoming. He sat down and waited patiently. Soon the door opened and Robert entered the room. He greeted David warmly and asked him to sit comfortably. The atmosphere felt respectful and calm. Robert spoke about the company values and how important trust was in their work. He explained that success meant building something meaningful. David listened carefully and nodded. Robert then spoke about Mia and the morning when David helped her. He said that actions taken without expectation revealed true character. David responded humbly and said he only did what felt right. Robert asked David about his past experiences and goals. David spoke honestly about his struggles and his desire for stability. He shared how he learned from each challenge. The conversation continued naturally and felt more like a discussion than an interview. Robert appreciated David's openness and calm manner. After some time, Robert stood up and smiled. He told David that the company needed people who valued integrity. He offered David the position with a firm handshake. David felt a wave of emotion but remained composed. He thanked Robert sincerely and accepted the opportunity. His eyes reflected gratitude and determination. As David left the office, he felt a new sense of purpose. The city streets looked brighter and full of promise. He knew his life was about to change. Over the next weeks, David began his new role. He arrived early and worked diligently. He learned quickly and supported his team. His presence earned respect naturally. Mia visited the office occasionally and greeted David warmly. They spoke briefly and shared smiles of understanding. Their connection was based on kindness and respect. David moved to a better apartment closer to work. He organized his space and enjoyed simple comforts. He felt proud of his progress. Each evening David reflected on how one small decision had shaped his path. He understood that life often rewarded quiet strength. He continued to work with honesty and care. David knew that challenges would still come, but he felt ready. He trusted his values and believed in his journey. The story of the missed interview and the act of kindness became a reminder. It showed how compassion could open unexpected doors. David carried that lesson forward as he built his future. David continued his work with steady focus as weeks turned into months. He learned new tasks and improved his skills each day. His supervisors noticed his dedication and calm attitude. He never arrived late and never left a task unfinished. The office slowly began to feel like a second home. David greeted his co-workers with respect and listened carefully during meetings. He did not speak loudly, but his words carried meaning. People trusted him naturally. Outside of work, David's life also changed. He no longer worried each night about the next day. He paid his bills on time and saved a little money each month. He cooked simple meals and rested with peace in his heart. Sometimes David remembered the morning he missed the interview. He thought about how close he was to walking away. He realized that one small choice had shaped his entire future. Mia and David crossed paths again during a company event. The space was filled with people and soft music. Mia thanked David once more for helping her that day. David smiled and told her that kindness did not need rewards. Robert watched the exchange quietly from a distance. He felt proud of both of them. He believed his company had grown stronger by welcoming people like David. David was later given more responsibility at work. He handled it with care and patience. He trained new employees and helped them adjust. He remembered his own struggles and offered guidance without judgment. One evening after work, David walked through the city streets slowly. The lights reflected on the road and the air felt calm. He felt grateful for how far he had come. He returned to his apartment and sat by the window. He thought about the future and the goals he still wanted to reach. He knew success was not only about position or money. It was about staying true to oneself. David decided to volunteer on weekends to help people in need. He believed giving back mattered. He wanted to be the help he once needed. As time passed, David's story quietly inspired others. Some co-workers began helping strangers more often. Small acts of kindness spread without being noticed. Mia continued her own path with a deeper understanding of the world beyond comfort. She learned from David's example and carried that lesson forward. Robert often shared David's story when speaking about values and leadership. He believed real strength showed in moments when no one was watching. David continued his work with steady focus as weeks turned into months. He learned new tasks and improved his skills each day. His supervisors noticed his dedication and calm attitude. He never arrived late and never left a task unfinished. The office slowly began to feel like a second home. David greeted his co-workers with respect and listened carefully during meetings. He did not speak loudly, but his words carried meaning. People trusted him naturally. Outside of work, David's life also changed. He no longer worried each night about the next day. He paid his bills on time and saved a little money each month. He cooked simple meals and rested with peace in his heart. Sometimes David remembered the morning he missed the interview. He thought about how close he was to walking away. He realized that one small choice had shaped his entire future. Mia and David crossed paths again during a company event. The space was filled with people and soft music. Mia thanked David once more for helping her that day. David smiled and told her that kindness did not need rewards. Robert watched the exchange quietly from a distance. He felt proud of both of them. He believed his company had grown stronger by welcoming people like David. David was later given more responsibility at work. He handled it with care and patience. He trained new employees and helped them adjust. He remembered his own struggles and offered guidance without judgment. One evening after work, David walked through the city streets slowly. The lights reflected on the road and the air felt calm. He felt grateful for how far he had come. He returned to his apartment and sat by the window. He thought about the future and the goals he still wanted to reach. He knew success was not only about position or money. It was about staying true to oneself. David decided to volunteer on weekends to help people in need. He believed giving back mattered. He wanted to be the help he once needed. As time passed, David's story quietly inspired others. Some co-workers began helping strangers more often. Small acts of kindness spread without being noticed. Mia continued her own path with a deeper understanding of the world beyond comfort. She learned from David's example and carried that lesson forward. Robert often shared David's story when speaking about values and leadership. He believed real strength showed in moments when no one was watching.